Okay, I think it's 3 minutes past 2. We'll get started. We've still got some people joining us, but they can catch up. So I think everybody can hear me. Everybody's on mute except for Nick. Can you hear me, Nick?
Thank you.
Good.
I can, yes.
Welcome everyone to this Rant and Rave webinar. My name is Steve Sapseed from BME Solutions. Last year, BME partnered with Rant and Rave to deliver their offering to the higher education sector. Although BME are mostly known for ClickView in higher education, we also deliver other solutions like Quantrix, F9, and Rant and Rave. I work predominantly with Nick Boxall-Hunt, who is on this call as well. And Nick, if you could just forward to the next slide for me.
Sure.
Nick is the sector manager. He looks after public sector at Rant and Rave, and most of you probably, well, some of you know me. I'm the applications director at BME Solutions. Nick will be doing most of the talking and clicking today. He's very knowledgeable on the product, and I will probably help to answer some questions at the end of the webinar. So on the right hand side of your screens there is a GoToMeeting panel. At the bottom right is an area where it's a sort of a chat area where you can type questions. You can use this little panel to type in your questions during the webinar, and Nick and I will endeavour to answer these questions at the end. So we've looked at, we're hopefully we'll start at 2, finish by 2:45. So without going any further, it's probably a good idea just to hand over to Nick and to get him to get started with it. So Nick, you okay to take over?
I am indeed, Steve. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you very much, Steve, for the opportunity to speak. I'll take this. I'll go through this. There'll be a few slides on setting the position where Rant and Rave has come from, where its beliefs are, and what we think about understanding the voice of the customer or the student. And then I'll show you the software, because inevitably, even though I can't see you, I expect there'll be twitching and restlessness at probably about 15:15, 20 past, whereby, okay, well, thanks very much for that, but we actually want to see the software. So I'll try and keep an eye on that. My background, actually, I've worked with Steve for a number of years now. I used to work for a company called ClickView, or it's now called Click. So I do have a background and knowledge of working with Steve. So thank you very much again for the opportunity of speaking. What do we do? Rant and Rave is a voice of the customer solution. It's a hosted solution, so it's delivered as software as a service, so you only need browser access to it. That's the technical part. But what it does is help to engage two cohorts in your organization. Your customers, whether they be students in this case, or citizens in the case of police, residents in the case of housing associations, etc., retail customers, but also it's designed to engage your staff as well. Staff are an important cohort, and without engaging your staff, it's very unlikely that you're going to deliver a fantastic experience. What our software does is aims to capture the voice of the student. We'll process it through our sentiment engine, present it in a dashboard or something similar to that, in which case you can act upon it. Because I'm going to go and run through a set of beliefs that we have that you don't have to agree with, but usually sit quite well with people. And one of those core beliefs is that by asking for feedback, you're setting an expectation. And asking for feedback and not doing anything on the back of it is probably worse than not asking at all. So with that in mind, I'll let you into what we believe. And please feel free to towards the end, if you want to challenge me on that, that's fine. But it's a good indication of where we're going. Universities and students want the same thing: to deliver and receive an efficient and easy customer experience. By delivering a good customer experience and having satisfied students, you're likely to keep them for longer throughout the process. What we mean by efficient and easy is that you probably know the processes that your students go through. So, well, yes, we are talking primarily about getting customer feedback, but we can also engage with them in certain ways by letting them know what the process is. So in terms of registration, where do they have to be and when? Well, we can do that proactively, can't we? So they don't have to continually ask questions. They don't have to call. They don't have to tweet. They don't have to email people to find out what am I doing next. Can we provide them and serve them up that information quickly and easily? We believe that every interaction creates an experience, and within those experiences, you can, if it's a negative one, then you can still find diamonds in there which to take away. Even if it's a fantastic one, there's probably a but in there. And even the indifferent ones, you can pull out something. And so if we can reduce the negative ones, the ones that create additional work for you, then we're likely to see a cost saving. We believe that a reduction in the effort it takes for the student to engage with you will actually lead to an increase in their satisfaction. They're there to learn, to understand, to grow as people. There are certain functional items they don't really want to have to speak to their university about on the whole, but if we can make it easy for them to engage with you, great. We believe that the mobile is the perfect channel to engage with students. It's the lowest common denominator. It's 63% of people go to bed with mobile phones. 96% of people will read an SMS within 4 minutes. There are more mobile phones in the world than there are toothbrushes, etc. The young generation, the lowest common denominator is the text. Most people will be able to read and respond to text in that way. But it's not the only channel. Increasingly, social becomes a channel, and email and web. So we cover all those channels. We believe that for immediacy and response, then we're looking at mobile. There are sorts of response rates that you could expect from a solution like ours. 20 to 25% response rates across SMS, 15 to 20 across email, 20 to 25% using voice. But you can get, depending on the way you do it. So, for example, one of our clients uses, they match the channel. So if you call into them, you get an SMS back. If you email in, you get an email back. Keeping the same channel makes it easy for people to speak to you and to engage with you. But they also do it in real time. Right, okay, this has just happened. You called in. How were we at doing that? So there's that crucial next piece. Asking for feedback and then not taking any action to follow up is worse than not asking at all. You've set an expectation that you're going to do something. And here's an interesting one that you might raise your eyebrows at, but if you take it from this perspective, that if we can get our house in order throughout the engagement process, then social media becomes a place to celebrate your ravers. We want to be able to make sure that by the time they get there, they're happy people. And in fact, if they are happy, if they're giving you a score out of 7, 8, 9 out of 10, 4 or 5s out of 10, whatever it might be, then we have the opportunity to allow them to amplify that by recommending you in social media. So we want to try and get them in the moment of truth. When students are loving and loathing their university experience, we're trying to get the emotion back into the engagement, because that's where you will get engagement in the university. It sounds dull. I look after energy and utilities as well. Who's worried about their water? Right up until the point where water gets switched off. Then it becomes very emotional. So an overview of our platform looks something like this. There are two sides to it, and those two sides, and the first one is that proactive communications. What can we be doing to communicate proactively with our students, with our staff even? So even if we've got them on different campuses, we can send alerts, we can send appointment reminders. You know, it's simple. Even my dentist sends me an appointment reminder. The reason why they do that is because they don't want me to miss the slot, because missing that means they are not running at occupancy, therefore they're not charging as much as they could be or making as much money. DWP user, so for those people who have received a delivery from Amazon, it's probably been delivered by DPD, sorry, and that text has come across our platform. That text says, You're likely to get your parcel between 11 and 12. Your driver's name is Jerry. Press 1 to accept, 2 to reject, 3 to deliver to your neighbor. The reason why they do that is because they only get paid once for their parcel delivery. So they want to make sure that is more likely to happen first time round. Can we provide people with alerts saying a piece of information, you're about to be delivered, a prospectus. Please make sure you open it. Give us your feedback at the end of it. So then we close that loop. We want to try and save any of the negatives, turn those ranters into ravers, make sure that we can start trying to measure performance. And how do we do that? Well, we do it by asking 2 very simple questions, which are, how were we? So it's on your behalf, how were we? It's simple words in that context. And why did you give us that score? So how were we on a scale of X to Y, 1 to 10, 1 to 7, 1 to 5, whatever it might be? Why did you give us that score? And that why unlocks the reason. So the next time they give you a score, you'll know the difference between why they gave you a 1 last time and a 5 this time and a 7 next time, whatever that might be. And if we put ourselves in our students' shoes, what we're trying to do is increase the relevancy of the communications, reduce the effort so they're more satisfied with engaging with you. And we do quite a lot of this. So examples of this that you may be aware of. So we can proactively go out and capture information, ask people for information, but we can also do it reactively. Here's a sign in a branch. This could equally be in the library. How are we doing today? How would you like to engage with us? The interesting bit about having these listening posts is that there's always a position that it makes it easy for the student to engage. At any point, they can give some feedback to the university. That does 2 things. It makes them feel like they're part of the university, that they're being listened to, but it also changes the nature of the university's behavior, the university staff's behavior, because they know that at any point, feedback can be provided. We can go out and reach out for it. There's an example of it on an SMS, and here's an example on an email. And in an email, you've got the opportunity to brand. And if you can see, this is over energy, and they're quite simple about it. That email we sent you, we'd like to know if it hit the spot. We've got a couple of questions for you. It'll only take a tick. And it's not just click here. It's, oh, go on then. And then there's those 2 little questions. Hit 10, tell us why. And we unpack that response and show you what it does. And even if you don't have mobile or email or Twitter, then we can go out to the landline. So we do have the capability to listen into social media. It doesn't have to be at RHUL, at whatever the student.ac.uk is. We can listen out for specific terms. We can listen out. It doesn't have to be hashtag Royal Holloway or whatever it might be. It can be just students talking to each other about your university, and we can pick that up, listen to it, and then you can decide what to do that. It goes through the same rigor. So what am I talking about then? If I just take a step out of this, how does our software do this? So here I've just mocked up a simple listening post on Royal Holloway's website. Here's a simple one saying, here's a place to give your feedback. That's fine. Look, here's my score. I'll put the slider up here. I'll give you some feedback and I'll hit send. There's a listening post for you. But if we've reached out to them and said, right, we'd like your feedback, well, then you can imagine a student giving a 5 or a 1 or a 3, whatever it might be. And their feedback might be something along these lines. Your canteen is fantastic, but your registration process is rubbish. Now, what I'm hoping you can see on your screens there is that you've got a negative associated with this topic and a very positive associated with this topic. So now what we can see is that our software is being able to differentiate between the topics and the sentiment applied to them. And that, the canteen, let's do canteen staff. Oh, fantastic. Now we can recognize, actually, if we just do good, that it's less emphatic, nice, less emphatic. Therefore, the scores are made up slightly differently. And if I was just to take that out, so we tend to go with the student-given score. However, within our software, we're still applying scores to the feedback as it goes along. Now, the student doesn't get to see this color. I'm only doing this to help you identify what the software is doing. If the student then says, please call me, they might be lost in the process. So they may understand what's going on, but they're lost. What's happening next? Please give me a call. Help me. Listening out for various keywords, phrases, turns, that sort of thing, kicks off another element of action. Or I'm calling my solicitor, or calling the ombudsman. We can listen out for phrases, terms that will trigger key actions. So even in this, rather, it's slightly contrived, but it's not a million miles away from what you might see, that we've got a positive about the staff, we've got a negative about the process, we've got an action that says, either way, can you help me? And there's a threat in there, and they're going to call the ombudsman, whoever it might be, my solicitor, go to your legal team, whatever it is. See somebody in particular, the registrar. So we've got the ability to understand this feedback and categorize it importantly. Typically at a high level, we'd look to categorize that into people, product, process, and place. So I'm hoping you can see that on the screen here. The people, the product, the process, and the place. Now, underneath that, we have a taxonomy, and that taxonomy in university language might be something along the lines of this. So we've taken some sample data from National Student Survey and run our sentiment engine over it, and we can see the people, the product, the process, and the place here. And if I was to drill into people, we can see that this actually comes into the different categorizations of where they reside under that. So within sport, etc., biology, in terms of these are actually the courses that they're under. Now, I'm going to, as you can see, this is a typical dashboard that you might get where we see a Raveometer on the left-hand side that changes with my selection. So I've just selected the engineering department, and now I've seen all my items reduced down to 594, and there's my score. If I take off that filter, I can then see, let's go, oh, and I've just chosen finance, which is exactly the same, but 3.24. But here are all the comments about finance. Now, whether that's about a department, it's about a geography, so it's about a halls of residence, whether about a location, or whether it's about a campus, all this fits into that people, product, process, place. You don't have to have those, but they seem to fit generically as good starting points. We turn that, so our software understands every word in the English language. But what it needs is some of the context around that. So we need to understand, take for example, Orange, the telcos network. We've got to understand that Orange is a network, it's a color, it's a fruit. That's fine, no problem. But then you throw in dolphin and canaries, some of its tariffs. You're never going to hear this sort of language in everyday use. So we've got to teach it that that's the one, their products. So we do the same with universities, and we have done already for Royal Holloway. So we'll be able to lean on that learning, drop it in, and help you with your taxonomy as well. So this is what a typical dashboard would look like with some student feedback. Good quality printing services are vital for the course. That's fantastic. So, you know, we'll be able to look at the positives and negatives within that. What I want to do is take that a little bit further and show you how we might drill into that. So if we drill into people in this case, people might be made up of customer services, skills and knowledge, attitude, agents, staff. In this case, we're using a mock-up of well, we call it Rave Getaways. But if you can provide us with more information, such as the location of your students, the channel in which they might have contacted you, the courses that they're taking, the halls that they're in, etc., etc., then we can start dissecting that data to a much finer level of detail. All of this can then, if we do see items which require an action, we'll pick out the woulds, coulds, shoulds, please can you do this, would you do that, and we can start highlighting them in such a way that they can be passed on to relevant people for action. So that could be assigned to whomever, Steve Smith, not Sapseed. It's in progress, and what we need to do here is give what was the last action, and then we can write a notes field down here. And actually from within the tool, we can email an SMS back the student. So that's how we start acting on the data that we're seeing in front of us. But here's that strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And in that threat might be that legal threat that we see. So what can we do about that? And how important are these? Here's an insight cloud such that we can see the trending topics that are important to our students. The bigger it is and the greener it is, the more positive and the more talked about it is. And then we can actually derive NPS out of this as well. If NPS is, the NPS question is how likely are you to recommend, this gives an indication of how likely are they to stay or want to go elsewhere, etc., etc. So that is the frontline dashboard. Within that, we're able to drill down. So if I look at, if I go to a simple map view of the world, we can start seeing where our students come from. And I am currently, I'm currently sitting here. So I'm going to look at all of Newcastle's students. I've added a filter. I've gone from 2,500 to 148 items. I can see where those items have come from. Actually, they're all from the telephone in this case. But I can see what makes up those. So those are all the items from there. So we can split this data any which way you'd like to see. Now I've got a filter on there. I'm just looking at the 148 items from Newcastle. And in this case, I've got what's called a business improvement grid. And that business improvement grid can help us quickly identify where we could be supporting better. What do we need to focus on? And imagine this is your product or maybe your courses, your territory, your services, your facilities that you provide across the top here. And across the left-hand side could be the people delivering those services. I'm looking here that actually we need to scrutinize this particular process or this particular faculty or this particular facility. Whereas further down, we probably need to give Anish or Subramanian here a little bit of support. Where can we help them? What sort of knowledge can we give these people? So this has given me a good top-down view on the world, and how we relate this to my old world of Click, and where Steve comes in as well, is his knowledge that actually all of that you've seen can all be done in real time. So the idea here is it could be as fully integrated with your SIT system as you can make it, or your CRM system, whatever it might be, whereby you finish a call, you'd like to survey out the back of that. Or it could be as simple as at the end of every day, you send us a file of everybody who's made contact with you. The very next morning, we ask for feedback. It could be as simple as that, or we just have listening posts. Now, the great thing about listening posts is they're always there, they're always on, but they don't get a very high response rate. It requires prompting to get the better response rate. So the listening posts are great because once people do respond, it's very rich in feedback, but we need to get them to respond. So getting them in real time helps. Now, all that can be done in our dashboard. But for the back end, for later, for further analytics, we have tied in with Click to OEM their product into ours. So for those people who do know their way around ClickView, the BI tool, you can see some similarities between some of the stuff that you might have seen and heard of before. So we can start bringing in other data sets. We can start seeing here quite clearly that actually the more negative the score, then the longer they are in giving feedback. So that's probably occupying more people than you would expect. What's most of the negative? What's most of the score? The longest feedback about? It's actually about place. And what's the most negative? It's actually about the place. So what is there? Is there halls of residence letting us down? What can we do about that? Alternatively, here's a fun thing. Most people are happiest on the Saturday. What does that mean for us? Is that because they're not at school? Is they're not at uni? Or is it just is there a different set of rules that we can have a look at. So we can have a look at cut this and dice this data any way that you see fit using the click data. So from a very high level, we've got the operational dashboard up front, and then we have the Discover application that sits behind it. So you've got your mapping, you've got your business improvement grid, you've got your dashboard, you've got your messages all up front, and so you can help see what's going on in real time, pull the levers so we can affect change in a shorter period of time. Now there may be things that you can't do, such as turning a library into a 24-hour-a-day service is going to take some time. However, there are possibly shorter-term things that we can have a look at that we help other people with. So I wanted to keep it nice and short and punchy, give you an insight that such that it prompts you a way of thinking, and that maybe that Steve could help articulate this on a more face-to-face basis. Steve,
yeah,
that is broadly me done.
Thank you, Nick. That was really good. Thank you very much. What we've got is we've got a chat down the bottom right. If you want to ask any questions, it's easier than unmuting the lines because there'll be an awful lot of noise. The other thing I was,
Steve,
yeah.
I was going to say I do have a few more. If you want me to prompt some questions, I can give. I've got a few more slides about why Royal Holloway went into it.
That's right? What I was going to say, Nick. If you could do
sure.
that would be good. Just as an example of what's doing at an existing university.
I thought I'd just pause for breath. In fact, I'm just going to have a sip of water. So let me unpause my screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see the slides again. So Royal Holloway is our first and currently our only university doing this, but we've had some great feedback, the likes of which is coming from you guys as well. So what was the aim of the project? Why did they want to look at Rant and Rave in the first place? To provide an online channel that, well, hopefully intelligently understands what's going on. And the important thing here is so we can challenge some service behaviors. We don't just wander through life aimlessly, not knowing what's going on, or not changing our direction. If you're going to, wasn't it Albert Einstein who said, definition of insanity was doing the same thing and expecting a different response. So what we're trying to do is change the landscape here, give service owners the opportunity to respond. Now, what we're trying to do is a single and clearly branded access point. In this case, they're using SMS and online. That's fine. Therefore, people then can see what's going on quickly and easily through Rant and Rave, and that we can then produce marketing materials. It's very simple to do, produce marketing materials to allow people to call in. And in this case, they started out in services centers, catering, and retail outlets. So what do they get out of it? So improving that satisfaction. If you buy into what we said beforehand, that making it easy, improve satisfaction. Improving satisfaction means they're likely to stay for longer, then we've got a better chance of improving our retention rates. And we're lowering our costs by replacing existing resource-intensive feedback mechanisms that are currently there. So it's not to say that it's all without risk. We've got to be able to understand that we want to and will need to have a way of being able to respond to that feedback. And there was the chance that there could be a poor take-up of the service by the students or the service owners. In this case, I would like to think that they don't believe so. So that sort of broadly gives you an overview of some of the risks and the benefits and the rewards. I'm hoping that possibly prompts more questions, but if not, I'm hoping that covers another part. Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. That's great. That was really good. I enjoyed that. Nick,